Hello everyone, good day. So for my report, my objective would be to discuss the benefits and identify good practices in maintaining a student-centered learning environment. So student-centered classroom or student-centered learning environment is one where the focus of instruction is shifted from the teacher to the student, with the end goal of developing students who are autonomous and independent by placing the responsibility of learning in the hands of the students. So in simple words, the teacher here is just going to be the facilitator and the learners are the one who are responsible for their learning. Like one example of this is when teachers assign students to have a particular report, and then by that the students will discuss the particular topic, and then after that the teacher will add some information regarding the topic. So that's an example of student-centered learning environment. So features of a learner-centered classroom. First, the teacher plans learning based on individual students' needs and interest. Second, teachers get to know students well in order to determine the needs and interest of the students. So first, before you plan your activity or your discussion in the classroom as a teacher, you must know your students because inside the classroom you will meet diverse of learners. And then the third features is that learning-centered classrooms have flexible grouping options or opportunities for whole, small, pairings, and individual work. Meaning that here they are free, they have flexible grouping options. So one example of this is when our teacher assigned us to make a what is this example of lesson plan, and then in that group we are composed of English major, Filipino major, and math major. So it is helpful for us as a students to collaborate with another group in order for us to be flexible in different areas. And then the next feature is that learner-centered classroom have flexible workspace to accommodate different types of grouping. So what do we mean by flexible workspace? So of course, inside the classroom, the teachers must maintain peace and then the cleanliness, the surroundings in order for the students to be what we call this to be I know to be confident and to be free and to be comfortable on their learning zone. And the next is teachers use formative assessments, methods of determining student understanding during the learning process to determine future teaching goals and methods. So one example of formative assessments is brainstorming, like before the start of a particular topic, the teacher will call one student or three students who will discuss the who will brainstorm the previous topic. So that's it. So like for example, Erica, so please have a recap on our previous discussion. And the next is teachers set short-term learning goals and guide students toward meeting them. And then students take an active role in setting goals, monitoring progress, and reflecting on learning. So here in student-centered classroom and good, the students can evaluate their performances, like what we have in our RS8, that the teacher there is just going to send a seminar, a seminar talk, wherein in that seminar we should make a reflection about what we learned on that particular seminar. And then by that, when our reflection is related and the teacher will evaluate it, after that we will see our grades. So after seeing our grades on that particular subject, so we can evaluate ourselves kung and the next reflection that we should make, whether we should make it more somewhat interesting or comprehensible for the reader to make our grades more higher. Okay, so that's one example of active role. We have an active role on our the performances inside the class. Okay, so those are the features of a student-centered classroom. And the next, we have the 6 signs of a student-centered classroom. So if you have met these 6 signs on your classroom, meaning your classroom is the student-centered. So first, the sign of a student-centered classroom is active learning. So the best learning experiences are interactive. These hands-on lessons allow students to move around and use multiple senses. They require students to engage, discuss, draw, build, and collaborate. And they support a deeper understanding, better retention, and increased skill fluency. The first step towards active learning is limiting teacher talk. Teachers who rely mostly on lectures can start by calling on students more. Meaning active learning. In a discussion, the teacher must not do all the talks in front of the students. So the teacher should engage active interaction between the students and him. So like for example, in a discussion, so mag-call on teachers sa iyang mga students para there's a participation. And then by that, the teacher also can monitor who are the students who are active in class and who are those students who is what do we call this? Dili man jud malikaya na there are students na hilumon or shy time, saying ana. So active learning, there should be an active learning on the classroom. So if you encounter this active learning, if your classroom is interactive, if your teacher is interactive, then your classroom is student-centered. And then the next sign of a student-centered classroom is there's a collaboration. So letting students collaborate is more efficient and more effective. They can get instant feedback from peers and develop social emotional skills. There is even evidence that students learn more easily when peers explain something to them than when a teacher does. So as you can observe, teachers like to give activities by group. And then on that particular activity, it seems like it's more interesting, it's more fun and enjoyable, especially if your group mates is kanang ka-vibes or nimo, you have the same energy, you have the same goal to pass your performance task or to pass your assessment. So there is even evidence that students learn more easily when peers explain something to them. So because sometimes the students are shy or get intimidated to ask their teacher about that particular particular phrase or about that particular thing. So in group manggod, there are students that they are more comfortable to ask their peers than to their teachers. So that's the good point of student-centered classroom, there is a collaboration. The teachers allow students to collaborate or to cooperate within their classmates. So if there is a collaboration in your classroom, so that's a sign that your classroom is student-centered. And then the next sign is differentiation. So it's not about differentiation of the students. So more specifically, there are 4 ways we can differentiate according to Tomlinson and Maker in 1982. First is the content. What the students learn. So what did the students learn on that particular lesson? And then next is the process, how they learn. So how they learn, is it on writing or they are more on verbal? And then the product, how we measure the learning. So the product here, this is the assessments that the teachers give on the students' assessment, whether it's a what is this, a product-based assessment or a performance-based assessment. And then environment, where did the students learn? So that is the differentiation. So we have here, so this is the content, the process, the product, and the environment. So the content, the curriculum, the students access, and how they access it. And then the process, how teachers sequence the learning and the ways in which students learn. And then the product, how students demonstrate what they have learned. And then how learning is structured. So that's a cycle from content, the content of a subject, a particular subject. And then the process, how did the teacher sequence all those topics for his or her students to learn within a SEM. And the next is the product, the activities, the performances that the teachers gives on their learners. So giun sa nila pag-present, whether nagpasa ba sila output, nag-demonstrate ba sila, nag-role play. So that's a product. And then the how learning is structured, the environment. Okay, so mostly this time our environment inside the classroom is online learning environment. Okay, so that's it. That's the differentiation. And then we have the social emotional learning. So in student-centered classrooms, students develop their social emotional skills by engaging in active learning. Planning a long-term project, working in teams, and giving oral presentations all support social emotional learning. This approach makes efficient use of instructional time as students acquire content knowledge at the same time they are developing social emotional skills. So why students develop social emotional skills here in student-centered classroom? Because the students there inside the classroom are not just going to sit and listen to the teacher. The students there is not just a receiver of knowledge, but also they are a feeder of knowledge. There is a teacher and students relationship inside the classroom. Whether the students will share what they have learned and the teacher will receive, and the teacher will take part if there is an additional information to give to the students. So that's why there is a social emotional learning, because along the process of being independent, because here in student-centered classroom, students here are independent because they can monitor their performances. So along on that student-centered classroom, the students there will acquire social emotional learning. Whether makagain ba sila og self-confidence or self-awareness sa ilang mga performance. Okay, so we have here the social and emotional learning. So first you have self-management, managing emotions and behaviors to achieve one's goals. So self-management. So nadiri ang self-management within a group. How would they manage their temper, especially they are in a group? So by that they will have more patience para mo in sa ilahang kagrupo. And then you can also develop self-awareness, recognizing one's emotions and values as well as one's strengths and challenges. So here in student-centered classroom, they will more know themselves, their strengths, their weaknesses. And then responsible decision making, making ethical, constructive choices about personal and social behavior. So they decide for themselves. They are responsible to decide on the activities and performances that they are doing. And then it also develops relationship skills, forming positive relationships, working in teams, dealing effectively with conflict. So that's it. And then social awareness, showing understanding and empathy for others. So as we have mentioned, in a student-centered classroom, there's a collaboration. So in collaboration, you are working in a team, you are working in a group. So by that, each student can develop empathy and understanding on their peers. So that's the social emotional learning. And the next, we have the voice and choice. So giving students choice and voice increases student engagement, which means increased learning. So one way to magnify student voice is through surveys. Ask students how they enjoyed a unit or what they want to learn in your class. You won't be able to give them everything they want, but even asking their opinion can help them feel more invested. So we can observe this at the first day of class. So what are you, the teachers will ask you there, what are your expectations inside this classroom? What do you want to learn in our subjects? So that's one example of raising your students' voice. And there are plenty of ways to increase student choice without compromising standards. For example, I have students work in teams to complete story organizers and a story of their choice. They develop the same standard-based literacy skills but are able to incorporate their interest. So one example of this is in our creative writing subjects, wherein our teacher there assigned us individually to create a particular story. It depends on us on what we are going to make, whether it's a tragic, it's a comedy, or romantic story. And then she gave us a freedom of unsa nga story ang amo ang pilion. And then by that, we are not, as a students, we are not forced to do something we don't like. So those students who like tragic story, they write tragic story, and those students who like horror stories, they write horror stories. So that's one example of giving students a choice. But at the same time, they are learning. And the next sign is technology integration. So technology used effectively can be a powerful student-centered learning tool. So of course, as of today, the technology is a very powerful learning tool. So classroom technology can allow students to work together on collaborative documents or demonstrate their understanding through videos and presentations. Adaptive learning platforms can allow us to differentiate in ways previously unimaginable. So effective technology use can simply just save time, freeing teachers to plan more creative and engaging lessons. So technology integrations, so this is very common. I think we can see this in every subject, in every classroom. We can see this technology integration because right now we adopted the new the new method of teaching wherein our classroom is online. So I think wala na yung online class karon as of I mean wala na yung modular modular nga kuan karon nga kana magkuhag modular copy sa school. I think it's more on online, especially here in St. Vincent's College. So that's one example of technology integration wherein the teachers adopt the use of technologies. So here an example of technology integration. Active learning, collaborative learning. This is the this is the six signs of a student-centered classroom. First, there is an active learning, wherein in a classroom there is an interaction between the students and the teacher. And then collaborative learning, wherein the students there are working collaboratively in groups. So they are working with their peers. And then differentiation, the content, the process, the product, and then the environment. And in the social emotional learning, wherein the students learn to understand their peers. They have self-management, the self-awareness, and responsible on making decisions. And then raising students' voice and choice. And then lastly is the technology integration. So if you encounter this six signs of student-centered classroom, meaning your classroom is student-centered. Okay, so next is we have here the three benefits of a student-centered learning environment. So the first benefit is that students take an active role in their education. So it can be a challenge to teach a child when they aren't excited about what they're learning. So it's very hard when you teach a child nga kanatong walay gana. So in a student-centered learning environment, rather than being taught at, students collaborate with their teachers and learn together. Students establish a relationship with their teacher where they can bounce ideas and questions off one another, something which would be more challenging in a teacher-centered environment. So like what I said, in a student-centered classroom, students there are not just going to see it and listen to the teacher. They are also a feeder. Students there are also a feeder of knowledge. And then the second benefit of a student-centered classroom is that students are earning admission to a great post-secondary institution. So a great student-centered school should be able to provide the knowledge and skills a child needs to move forward in their career. So of course, for example, here in St. Vincent's College, if all of the subjects here, if all of the teachers are adopting this student-centered classroom, then there's a 90% that students will be independent and will be successful soon on their careers in the future. And then the next benefit is the development of key character traits. So by providing students with the tools they need to succeed, they are able to develop important life skills and they will carry with them. Research has shown students who learn in student-centered environments are more confident, are better able to articulate their thoughts and opinions, are better leaders, and find joy through educating themselves. So here in student-centered classroom, your might be your students here will adopt the traits of being teachable. They will not get mad if someone will correct them. And then it's also possible that if you would adopt a student-centered classroom, one of your, or maybe 50% of your students will be a better leaders in the society. And most likely, they will have this, articulate their thoughts and opinions correctly. Okay, so that's the three benefits of student-centered learning environments. So first, it can take an active role in their education. So students are being responsible, and then second is it will help them to have a successful career in the future, and then third is develop a key character traits along the way. So not just in school, but if mo step ng students outside the school, what they learn inside, they will carry it all throughout their journey. So that's all for my report. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. So if you have questions, you can just list down your questions and send it to me, and I will answer it directly. Thank you.